Something was really wrong.
They just carried on like a normal life.
She didn't want to be left alone with him.
What are you trying to say?
We knew we had him.
We will have to come clean.
I knew what he meant, that he'd killed her.
Please go to the police.
Welcome, I'm Leila McKinnon, and this is Inside Crime. Tonight, the tragic story of two daughters lost forever at the hands of people they trusted the most. Rick and Julian Thorburn portrayed themselves as the perfect foster parents who concocted a story to hide a murder from police. This lonely and isolated riverbank is a place Cindy Palmer will always have an undeniable connection with, a connection she wishes she never had. It was here, on November 5th, 2015, that the body of her 12-year-old daughter, Tiali, was found. The little girl, also known as Tia, had been murdered.
It was my daughter, and she was found washed up on a river. Like, what kind of animal leaves a little girl in a river? But the pain I felt was so bad, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do anything but cry.
At just 12, Tiali Palmer had already experienced much torment. By the time she was 7, she was living in foster care because, as Cindy admits, she couldn't always provide her children with the happiest or safest of homes. So her daughter was placed in foster care.
Because I was suffering through a very severe domestic violence situation, I spiraled out of control into drugs and homelessness.
Cindy accepts that at the time, Tiali was better off without her.
At the end of the day, that was, I thought, was the safer option.
It was a broken little girl who arrived on the doorstep of Rick Thorburn and his wife Julian in January 2015. The couple and their 2 teenage sons, Trent and Josh, both talented dancers, lived on an isolated semi-rural property in Chambers Flat, south of Brisbane. The Thorburns were considered the poster family for foster care, but Cindy had misgivings from the start, including that Tiali would be living with teenage boys. This is the man who first killed, then abandoned the child he promised to protect.
Do you know the area where Tia was found?
No.
Have you ever visited that area?
No, I didn't know anything about it.
No, that's fine.
Right from the start, Rick Thorburn was a heartless liar. And right from the start, his family did everything they could to keep his evil secret. His callous wife, Julian,
So more about protecting us, our family, our lifestyle, and our upstanding in the community.
and their sons, 18-year-old Trent, who had sexually abused his foster sister, and 19-year-old Josh.
We had to keep it all a secret. We had to pretend like we didn't know anything and, pretend.
All part of the reprehensible conspiracy to save themselves.
His exact words were, "Tia is no longer with us." He said, "I hope you understand what that means." I knew what he meant, that he'd killed her.
And the covert police surveillance that revealed the Thorburn cover-up. What really went on behind closed doors.
To the outside world, it's just a normal rural property, but the reality is it's a house of horrors, what occurred here.
The first ever time that I met Rick, the first words that came out of his mouth were about how he was in a gang when he was younger and he was running guns and prostitutes, and And he was proud of this. Whether it was true or not, it was inappropriate.
The truth is that Rick Thorburn was a monster hiding in plain sight. To the outside world, he was a likeable, easygoing bloke, a former truck driver with a love of classic cars. But in private, he was a controlling figure, feared by his family, including Tiahleigh. And Cindy believes there was more.
There was a time when her behaviour had changed towards Rick. She didn't want to be left alone with him, and she started misbehaving. She was running away. She didn't want any bar of Rick. And it wasn't just that, it was the inappropriate clothes that she all of a sudden started wearing and dresses that had padded bras in them. He'd taken her to get her eyebrows waxed and, things like that.
As the Thorburn family told police, Friday, October 30th, 2015 started like any other day.
They went through and they told us a routine, and it was a routine they were all comfortable with. Hopping up, having breakfast, going to the gym, getting ready, dropping Tia at school.
But it was all lies. As police would eventually discover, Tiali was already dead, killed the night before by her foster father, Rick Thorburn. As part of the cover-up, Rick maintained he'd dropped Tiali to school at 8:10. This CCTV footage shows he then picked up spare parts before returning home. Just before lunch, a school counsellor calls to say Tiali is not at school. And when police hear that a 12-year-old girl has gone missing, they immediately think the worst.
Police putting up posters, pulling over drivers. A school backpack similar to Tiali Palmer's on show again at Marsden State High, the last place she was seen alive.
A number of detectives have been tasked to work through a list of local sex offenders and confirm their recent movements.
You prepare for the worst, but hope for the best.
Detective Inspector Damien Hansen from Queensland Police Homicide ran the investigation.
Possibly been one of the most difficult investigations that I've been involved in.
Was there anything unusual right at the beginning of this case?
In hindsight, yes, there was. Rick's demeanour, his behaviour, he became very emotional right from the start. He's broken down in tears, so much so that the social worker actually had to drive him to the police station to report her missing.
What also made Rick's emotional and immediate reaction suspicious was that Tiali had run away before and had always been found within a matter of hours. Tiali's mum, Cindy, was hoping this time would be the same.
My heart was telling me that I had to find her and things were going to be okay. But I think deep down I knew that something was really wrong.
Volunteers trudged through the muddy banks of the Pimpama River, searching for answers. Anything that might explain what cost a 12-year-old girl her life.
The 5th of November, 2015. 6 days after being reported missing to police, Tiali's body was found on the banks of the Pimpama River, south of Brisbane. Damien Hansen says the choice to dump Tiali's body here reveals Rick Thorburn's mindset.
They dumped trash here, and that's obviously sums up what he thought of Tia. It's total disregard.
Local fishermen found Tiali, their unexpected and shocking discovery leaving them traumatised.
She was just off the bank here in the reeds, just down, only in shallow water. She was naked apart from a pair of underwear that was partially pulled down. She was decomposed, so identification was trouble.
She's the innocent face of an unspeakable crime.
The worst had come to pass. Now police had to find who had done the unthinkable.
Did we look at Thorburns first? Yes, we did. But you know, there are a lot of other lines of inquiries, and it was a very difficult and long investigation.
And new information, Tia may have been planning to skip school the day she disappeared.
That would suggest that she probably had a plan to meet somebody.
Who, police still don't know. They're again asking for drivers with dashcam footage in the street of Tia's school to come forward. So far, few have.
We knew that Rick said she was dropped at school around 8:10. We spoke to and interviewed all the children at the school, and we had a number of false sightings of Tia. We canvassed then all sex offenders in the area, and we had numerous people that we looked at.
How was her demeanour that morning?
She was on key. She was happy. It's really sprightly. And I was sort of pleased that she was happy that day. I just thought, we're going to have a good day.
Rick's shameless lies here to police were nothing compared to the show he, his wife and their sons put on at Tiali's funeral. They danced and they cried, a family united in grief. Rick Thorburn even carrying the casket at the funeral.
They took pride of place at the funeral, which I didn't think they deserved, and people treated them as though they were parents of long standing, which they weren't.
They were acting a part to not get caught.
6 months into the investigation of Tiali Palmer's murder, police still had no concrete leads to go on.
We knew that Rick said she was dropped at school around 8:10. We canvassed then all sex offenders in the area, and we had numerous people that we looked at.
The Thorburn story was so unshakable they were no longer suspects. There was no forensic evidence, and as for motive, there was no clue as to why this young girl had to die. That was until Crime Stoppers got a tip-off.
It was an anonymous call came through and gave us details that there was a Facebook message sent from Trent outlining a sexual activity with Tiahleigh, and that there had been a family meeting the night before she disappeared.
This is the Facebook message that changed everything and forced a crisis meeting of the Thorburns. In it, Rick Thorburn's youngest son, 18-year-old Trent, confesses.
I'm in trouble and I don't know what to do.
He's had sex with 12-year-old Tiali and fears she may be pregnant. Fears too the legal trouble he may be in.
I've never had sex before and she made me do that with her.
He goes on to tell his cousin,
I just want the kid gone and out of my life, but I know she's also a source of income for Mum and Dad as well.
The cousin advises Trent to tell his parents, which he says he'll do.
You look at the content of that Facebook message, you look at the fact there's a family meeting, and just by coincidence she goes missing the next day. Yes, it's suspicious.
Then came the explosive news that Rick Thorburn was also facing multiple charges of sexual abuse of children who attended his wife's daycare centre run out of their home. The authorities were alerted and their daycare centre and foster privileges were shut down 6 months after Tiali was murdered while in their care. The image of the perfect family was falling apart. The Thorburns were now the prime suspects and under constant police surveillance. Detective Inspector Damien Hansen says while they were very aware of the increased police presence, the Thorburns didn't know their house was also being bugged. Every lie now on the record.
I hope you understand what that means.
Simply, the Thorburns' candid conversations are horrifying. In their own dispassionate words, we hear now they plan to cover up a child's murder.
We will have to keep you out of this completely.
Here, Rick and Julene are schooling their sons to maintain the lie that Tiali was dropped at school, when in fact she was already dead.
We have to stick to the same story about her going to school the next day and whatever.
Then this. Rick tells Trent what to say to police if he's ever questioned about his sexual abuse of his 12-year-old foster sister.
She came into your room. You remember waking up? You were still drunk. You were still whatever.
Never do the recordings capture sadness for Tia or remorse for what was done to her. But they do betray the first moment when two members of the family, Julene and eldest son Josh, begin to crack.
If we have to come clean, that's just between you and I. We will have to come clean. We've got to come clean to protect you and me and Trent for the rest of it. Dad made the decision to go down that path, unfortunately, and we're going to have to live with it, if it comes to that.
Armed with these conversations and the damning Facebook message, police now had the evidence to prove the family was lying and leverage to get them to confess.
We'd put the Thorburn family before coercive hearings, and as a result of that Facebook message, we were able to prove that Julene, Trent and Josh had all lied at those hearings, committed perjury. That was crucial in our investigation because we had to get one of them, or more than one, to become Crown witnesses against Rick.
And the two that turned were Julene and Josh.
I just knew that I couldn't keep doing this very much longer because it was going to catch up with me.
Police have given us special access to their interviews with Julene and Josh, interviews that reveal what happened the night Tiali was killed.
Said to Rick, was Tia okay? And he said, it's all taken care of. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, don't worry, don't ask any questions.
Thursday, October 29, 2015, and Julene shares Trent's terrible secret with Rick. He'd had sex with Tiali the week before.
He was adamant about him doing jail time, that he'll go to jail for something like this.
Yeah.
So Rick was, extremely concerned about that.
Yeah.
That he can't go to jail. He just can't let it happen.
Julene then leaves. Tia is now in the house on her own with Rick.
The last time that you saw Tia Palmer alive, when was it?
In her bedroom, sitting on her bed.
Okay.
I said goodnight to her there.
Yep.
And expressed to her that she needed to stay there and put herself to sleep when she was ready, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. And where was Rick?
I think he was outside the kitchen door, waiting for me to come back outside.
Okay. Was there anyone else in the house?
Nobody else in the house, no.
And then you left?
Mm-hmm.
We believe that at that stage Rick has killed her and he's put her body out here in the shed. We know there's probably a period of about 3 hours between Julene returning home and the boys returning home as well. Rick simply told him that Tia was gone.
Josh, too, breaks ranks with his father and chillingly recounts the moment he learned of Tia's death.
His exact words were, Tia is no longer with us. And also he said, I hope you understand what that means. I knew what he meant, that he'd killed her.
How was Dad's emotions at that time?
He didn't cry. He seemed quite assured and defensive of what he'd done and why he had done it. Obviously was to protect Trent.
So Rick didn't mention to you before you went, Sharon, that he might take this path?
No. Absolutely not, no.
Yeah, okay. Because I'm just thinking about the fact that he said that, you said that he was a bit worried about what might happen to Trent.
Yeah.
So we're going from that to killing her while you're out.
Yeah. No, I would never have left the house if I thought that. I had no indication, no feeling that he would do something like that at all.
But to Cindy, Julene's account just doesn't ring true.
I believe that Julene left Tiali there to die that night if we believe the story that they're telling.
During that discussion at home, did he discuss with you the intricacies of how she was killed?
No. I still don't know what happened there. I just know that he did. That he did do it. And he said to us that it's best we don't know how it happened because the less we know, the less we can tell.
The instructions for the family were that to carry on life as normal. It just shows how callous they are. They were calculating, they were callous. They did not care one bit for Tia. They were only interested in themselves and keeping that family unit together.
Convincing Julene and Josh to become Crown witnesses against Rick Thorburn was a major win for Detective Inspector Damien Hansen.
I was roughly here. Dad was somewhere here.
It was great. We knew we had him.
The police still had to test Rick's lies, gather hard evidence against this master deceiver.
Mate, is there anything you can tell me about this matter?
Nothing at all, no. I dropped her off.
Rick repeatedly lied to create the impression Tiali was alive the day after he murdered her. He claimed he dropped his foster daughter to school and created a fiction of her meeting a friend on her way in.
And I just said, well, look, the last time she knows, and off they go.
To fool everyone, Rick even drove the school route that Friday morning. He told police he'd stopped for 30 to 40 seconds, just long enough to let Tiali out of the car.
We used other vehicles as a reference point.
What Rick didn't count on was that police would go back and check his story. With the help of CCTV, they determined he did not stop at the school. He just drove by. They calculated a time difference of 6 or 7 seconds between the white van and Rick's car before and after the school drop-off zone. You can see the white van. Extraordinarily, it's been captured. And then there's the blue car.
That's his, and that's 7 seconds difference. So if he's said he stopped for 30, 40 seconds, he hasn't. We've spoken to the driver of the white van. He had no stops on that road that day.
Tiali Palmer is missing, and her foster parent, Rick Thorburn, is being questioned by police.
Mate, is there anything you can tell me about this matter?
Nothing at all, no. I dropped her off.
We used other vehicles as a reference point. He had no stops on that road that day.
After his fake school run and some errands, Rick returns home. As if oblivious to the atrocious crime that has been committed under their roof, Julene works in the daycare centre, while Rick tinkers on his car. At 8 p.m, Rick shifts Tiali's lifeless body from the shed to his car to drive her 42 kilometres away to dump her in the river. This time, he's wily enough to avoid detection, despite police collecting 50,000 hours of CCTV footage during their investigation.
He was wary of police methodologies. He left his phone at home. He took a route that didn't involve cameras. He took all precautions to make sure he wasn't recorded coming here.
Dad said also that he didn't want us home on the Friday night so that he could do what he had to do, which was hide the body.
On the Friday night?
Friday night, yep.
When Tia's body was located, do you remember where you were?
Yeah, I remember it coming on the news first thing in the morning, and I was horrified. Just went to my gut straight away, just knew what it was. And I went into him, he was in bed, and I said, a body has been found in Pimpama River. I said, could it be it? He just said yes.
Did you ever think about how Tia died? The circumstances around it?
Yeah. I don't really want to know how she might have suffered or something. It's very upsetting. But no, I've no idea how she died.
It's baffling that for Julene, Josh and Trent, it seemed to be so easy to cover up the murder of Tiali. That not one of them had the courage to come forward is shameful.
They just did as they were told by Rick. He was a controlling figure. He's controlled all facets of their life, always has. I see them as perpetrators, you know. There's a little 12-year-old girl who's lost her life, and they could have come forward that straight away and been honest.
Trent Thorburn was charged and convicted of incest, attempting to pervert the course of justice, and 2 counts of perjury, and served 16 months in jail. His older brother Joshua pleaded guilty to perjury and attempting to pervert the course of justice, as did their mother, Julene. They too were sent to jail. But they've all since been released to get on with their lives, including celebrating Trent's recent 21st birthday.
It's just disgusting.
We were going to arrange a sequel thing with her. Yeah. It's one of the dolphins.
Mate, do you think she understood what fun was?
Rick Thorburn probably thought his crocodile tears had worked. That he had no idea police were coming for him. No idea his wife and son had dobbed him in.
So do you have any doubt about whether Rick killed Tia? No?
No. I don't have any doubt at all.
Rick was total shock when he was arrested, but he did take a number of pills and tried to suicide. That was his way out. I think he planned that if he was ever caught for it, he wasn't going to face the music. To this day, I've not heard Rick Thorburn say what he did and why he did it.
Rick Thorburn was a pallbearer at Tiali Palmer's funeral, knowing all along he was the reason she was there. Today, he admitted to and paid for her murder.
Rick Thorburn finally pleaded guilty to murder and was sentenced to life in jail.
Your conduct throughout all of the offending is made more shocking for the deliberateness of your actions and your willingness to coerce every member of your family to maintain false accounts in an effort to cover up your despicable behaviour.
But by admitting his crime, Thorburn avoids a trial and ever explaining why he did what he did to Tiali.
His lawyer telling the court Thorburn was sorry. A day doesn't go by where he doesn't feel remorse for what he has done. But for police, it's not enough.
We'd like to hear Rick say why he did it and how he did it.
Tiali Palmer's biological mother, Cindy, said outside court no sentence would ever be enough.
Tiali was a beautiful young girl who had her entire life to look forward to. Rick Thorburn took that away from me, from our family, and most importantly, from Tiali.
The thing that never entered my mind was it was somebody who was entrusted with her care that would do this to her. You know, there's a lot of bad things that happen in this world, and I just didn't see it coming.
Cindy's burden is unbearable, but instead of sympathy for her dreadful loss, many continue to find fault with her as a mother even though she has long proven her love for all 4 of her children.
It's hard. I try not to let it bother me, but, you know, I've worked really hard to not be that person anymore. But I guess maybe it is a little bit of guilt because obviously, you know, I was meant to be a mother and I should have made better choices. I don't know. I did everything I could to try and get her back. I wanted our family to be whole again. And it just wasn't with her not there.
When it happens to your own, it's like a twisted knife in your heart.
Life's hard. Extremely hard every day. It doesn't get any easier.
Tiali was such a beautiful little girl. She was a free spirit.
From one young life cut short to the next heartbreaking story of little Kiesha Abrahams, the 6-year-old killed by the people she trusted the most. Kiesha was buried in a suitcase in bushland while her devastated grandparents and the community searched for a child they thought was missing.
I'm watching. I'm watching.
6-year-old Kiesha Weippeart, the cute little girl with the big smile.
She was beautiful.
Our hearts go out to her family when she's reported missing by her seemingly grief-stricken parents.
Someone must know something. Please come forward.
You want to see her? Can they please contact the police?
But their tears are crocodile tears. It's all an act. These people are heartless killers.
Just hope that she's found as soon as possible. That's what we need. Safe and well.
The pair has already killed Christy's little daughter, Kiesha, and they're trying to get away with murder. How could someone be so cold and so calculating that they not only lie about murdering a loved one, but do it so publicly for all the world to see?
The main motivation for these killers putting on these public appeals is obviously to avoid punishment. They think if they can divert suspicion from themselves by showing how devastated they are, that they'll get away with it. They're quite manipulative and they think that they can control the investigation by talking to the media.
She was beautiful.
It gets harder by the minute.
Hi, I've just gotten up and I went to the toilet and realised that my front door was open and my daughter's not here.
The couple's calculated charade begins 3 weeks after they kill Kiesha. Abrahams makes a 000 call reporting her missing.
How old is your daughter? She's 6.
Have you checked all the units?
No, I've just gotten up.
Abrahams carries on lying to the operator for almost 5 minutes.
She's not here. I looked everywhere.
Now, Christy, we have got everybody on their way out there.
There wasn't that degree of emergency. Yes, she was sobbing, but she was very passive and she wasn't offering a lot of information about the abduction other than what the operator asked her. I expect heartfelt emotion, frantic, panic, concern, worry, safety. I don't see it.
On the day, I didn't see Christy upset once.
Friend Kylie Marshall is one of the first to comfort Kiesha's family.
There was a couple of little things that sort of seemed a bit odd to me, but then I just thought maybe this is just their way of dealing with it.
Almost 72 hours and still no breakthrough. So Christy Abrahams knew it was time to put aside the pain and ask for the public's help in trying to find her daughter.
It's now 2 days since Christy Abrahams' 000 call reporting Kiesha's disappearance.
You want to see her? Can they please contact the police?
Not looking up at the cameras, or even he couldn't even look at the camera. And she couldn't take the tissue away from her mouth when she was talking. You knew something had happened.
Christy Abrahams appealed to the public to search for her daughter Kiesha, but her fake tears weren't convincing anyone.
She couldn't take the tissue away from her mouth when she was talking. You knew something had happened.
On Saturday night, the pair say they tucked 6-year-old Kiesha into bed, only to find her missing the next morning. Kiesha's mother says she loved playing with stray cats and believes that's what her daughter was doing on Sunday morning before she was abducted.
And the lies continue with a public appeal for Kiesha's safe return.
She was always happy, bubbly, you know, loved playing, you know, just like any kid would.
Right there. Now, he said loved. She loved to play. That's past tense. If she is still alive, you would expect a parent to say she loves to play. So often when people change tenses, that's a major red flag.
Just hope that she's found as soon as possible.
Deceptive people will create distance and disassociation. Not once do I hear him use her name. He'll say things like, I hope she, and that's creating distance. I'd expect a heartfelt plea or emotion using or taking ownership and using her name, but I don't see that.
The homicide squad is now in charge of the investigation. It's focusing on Kiesha's whereabouts, not just last weekend, but for the past month. She hasn't been at school, and apart from her parents, no one has seen her 3.5 weeks ago.
In the days ahead, finding the 6-year-old becomes a community crusade.
For the local community, made up of so many young families, this case of a little girl lost has hit very hard.
I just want my granddaughter back.
Day 5 and yet more searching. Now police are looking underwater.
The only ones not searching are the two who've known the 6-year-old's fate all along.
Neither of them made any effort to go and have a look themselves. They didn't, on day 3 that Kiesha was missing, were sitting out the back having a drink.
This morning, Kiesha's mother, Christy, was questioned by Department of Community Services officers.
They just carried on like a normal life. You know, she'd go out, get her hair done, get her nails done, go out, get Maccas and stuff like that, go shopping and things like that, you know.
Police are also working with welfare organisations who they say have had dealings with Kiesha. There have been reports when she was a toddler, she was treated in hospital for a bite wound, apparently inflicted by an adult.
By this time, Abrahams and Smith are moved to a local motel. With the couple gone, forensic teams scour the unit, finding traces of Kiesha's blood in every room. It's the crucial evidence they need.
Would there be any reason why there'd be more blood, not just in her unit, but throughout the unit?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying that when we forensically examined the unit, there's an amount of Kiesha's blood throughout the unit. And I'm just trying to ask you how that would have got there.
I don't know.
Now, there's two things. She was defensive both verbally and also physically with her body language. It's not the sort of behaviour you would expect from a parent where the police are actually trying to help you find your child.
We're just trying to get to the bottom of this. You're very angry.
Yeah, well...
At us. We're going to get to the bottom of what's happened to her.
Yeah, and I hope you do, because, mate, I need to know.
I think everybody needs to know.
So what are you trying to say, that we did something to her, or...?
I didn't say that.
In these type of interviews, it's a battle. She wants to know what the police know, and of course the police want to know what she wants to know. So she's actually testing the water. Yeah, she looks very concerned.
The New South Wales Police were never fooled by Christy Abrahams' crocodile tears. Piece by piece, they methodically gathered evidence. And finally, 8 months after that deceitful appeal, Abrahams confessed to the terrible crime.
Can I please contact the police?
Detectives found Kiesha's body at a remote bush grave on what would have been her 7th birthday.
It was Good Friday. when the police officer come knocking at my door at 2 o'clock and told me that they had just arrested Christy and Robs with Kiesha's murder. I think I spent about 24 hours crying. Why'd she have to kill Kiesha?
Abrahams is serving 16 years jail for Kiesha's murder. Smith, 12 years.
Too young to be taken away. Rest in peace, sweetheart. Ninny loves you.